What is up, everybody? This is Joe from Sled Shed Bike Sports Bouldering. Today we're going to talk about 3 awesome mountain bikes from Trek.
Alright, my name is Chris. This is a 2020 Trek Fuel EX 9.8. I do pretty much everything from enduro to cross country to super long, drawn out rides for fun.
My name's Lawson. I am a free rider at heart and aspiring enduro racer. This is the Trek Slash 9.8 2019.
I'm Joe. This is a 2019 Trek Remedy 9.8, and I'm just your average 30-something mountain biker that likes to ride bikes, whether that's enduro or maybe tech or longer all-day adventures, and just trying to not get fat.
And he still rips harder than everyone else, though.
So we're talking about these 3 mountain bikes today because for a lot of people, they kind of end up being a little confused about which bike they should buy. All 3 bikes are kind of built for similar intents and purposes, and it's pretty easy to find yourself unsure about which one is best suited for you and for your riding. So first, let's go ahead and dive into the Fuel EX. So the Trek Fuel EX is a 29er. It has 130 millimeters of travel on the back, 140 millimeters of travel up front, and it has, depending on the Link setting, it has a 66-degree head angle up front, or 66.5, and then a 75 or a 75.5 degree seat tube angle. And I might just point out, with a 66-degree head tube angle, that's as slack as my freeride bike from 2010. It's meant to be a trail bike that can be an enduro bike, but it's awesome just to ride as your single mountain bike to do everything.
So I bought the Trek Fuel EX because they had recently redesigned it. They had made a lot of changes that I appreciated. Longer reach, better fit overall. And I also wanted a bike that was a little bit better at everything. If you want to ride techie stuff on it, it's got the geometry for it, it's got the travel for it. If you want to ride long days, it's efficient enough for that. So a couple things that I've changed. I bumped the fork to 150 mil of travel. That slackened it out a bit. I did a 40 mil stem on the front, and that kind of brought my reach in a little bit, made the handling feel a little bit more neutral. I changed the rear hub to a 108 engagement, which you can do for like 30 bucks, super cheap. Changed the grips in the saddle as you would expect. And I did change something in the shock. So the shock felt pretty good from the factory, but it was pretty gushy when you really hammered on it. So I swapped out the volume spacer in that, put in a 0.8 volume spacer, which is twice as big as what it comes with stock. And feels a lot better now. It's a lot more efficient. I swapped the tires out for Maxxis Aggressors, and then I have a second set of wheel sets with a double down and DH casing combo with Assegai and DHR in the rear for the gnarlier days. So did that. Things that I would change in the future. First thing I would change is I wish they would have just sent it with a normal shock, DPX2 or Super Deluxe, something like that. And apart from that, I think they pretty much nailed it. The storage in the down tube is rad. The bike, like I say, my favorite thing about it overall is that the handling is just superb. It corners really well. So you feel good when you're coming up to big obstacles, runs a super long dropper post. It's not crazy steep. It's more what I'm used to. So it may not be the most modern bike, but I like it.
All right, so this is the 2019 Trek Remedy. It was redesigned for 2019. So we've got a 65.5 degree head tube angle here, or 66, depending on how you set up the minnow link in the back. You also have a 74.2 degree seat tube angle, or 74.7 degree seat tube angle, again, depending on the minnow link. Some will consider this to be a bike that's maybe a little bit slacker than the modern design. It's also a little bit shorter in the reach than what some people are used to. A lot of people would describe this as a big BMX bike. It definitely has, with the 160 travel in the front and the 150 in the rear, definitely in that enduro category, but with 27.5-inch wheels, it's certainly on the more playful side of your trail bikes. Some would even call it a long travel trail bike. It's known for climbing really well and descending really, really well. Kind of whatever you want it to be. If you're a playful kind of rider, this is probably what you're going to want.
So why did I buy this bike? I wanted one bike that I could use for pretty much anything. I knew that I was going to be just riding trail. I was going to be doing even some cross-country riding with the local mountain bike, the local youth team. I knew I was going to do some enduro races. And I kind of grew up with a background in motocross and freeride. And so I kind of appreciate a playful bike. And I knew the Remedies kind of pitched as like this big BMX bike that's just playful, and I was totally into that kind of thing. What do I feel like this bike excels at most, or what type of riding is it best at? That is kind of hard to say. I mean, just general trail riding. It actually was really not a bad enduro racing bike. I think it may have lost just a little bit of high-speed stability in really loose terrain. All summer long, there was maybe 2 or 3 of those instances where it's just like a really, really loose, really chunky rock garden that's like going for a really extended period of time. Maybe those instances I thought maybe these 27.5-inch wheels weren't ideal. But really everywhere else, whether it was chunky, tech, gnar, like steep stuff, it was awesome. I loved it. A lot of fun. Really good even for all day type stuff. Maybe not the best for like flat riding, but just an awesome all-purpose general mountain bike. And honestly, not really any surprises while riding the Remedy. It always just feels like you feel like a bike should. It just handles it. What modifications or changes have I made to the bike? I actually swapped out a lot of things. I knew that going into it, and that's why I bought the 9.8, just so that I knew there was a lot of value there. You can pretty easily upgrade things. I actually put Code RSC brakes on there, and I put a Lyric RC2 fork on there. I rode it with 160 millimeters of travel for a couple months through the summer, and then when I had a big enduro race at Silver Mountain, I knew it was going to be a lot of steep stuff. I decided to go ahead and bump the fork travel up by 1 centimeter, and I actually liked that. I didn't really feel like there was any cons to bumping that fork travel, and so I just ran it with 170 millimeters of travel up front for the rest of the summer and fall and into the early winter. So I'm actually running the Bomb Trigger Line Elite wheels, and they're awesome. Love the high number of engagement. It seems like a high value wheel. I did put on like a Wolf Tooth dropper remote. I think that Wolf Tooth dropper remote really brings the Bomb Trigger line dropper post alive. Makes it work much better. What would I change moving forward? You know, just for the sake of experimentation, I kind of would want to try setting it up mullet. Maybe bring the travel back down to 150 and running a 29-inch wheel up front. And then maybe you're running at 160 with a 29-inch wheel up front, just because it would be awesome. I would have to change out the fork, but I don't know. Something I imagined tinkering with.
Here we have a 2019 Trek Slash 9.8. It has a head tube angle of 65.1 in the slacker setting, or 65.6 in the steeper setting, and then it has a seat tube angle of either 73.6 in the slacker setting or 74.1 in the steeper setting. This bike was super cutting edge when it came out in kind of late 2016. The Trek Slash is still a very viable enduro race bike with 150 millimeters of travel in the back and 160 millimeters of travel up front, rolling on big 29-inch wheels. This bike is built for speed. It still has kind of shorter chainstays with about a 430 millimeter length chainstay, so it's pretty agile. The reach is not long by modern standards, but still reasonable. And I will just note that the aluminum version of the Trek Slash is actually slightly different from the carbon version. The aluminum numbers are a little bit more modern. It is probably due for an update, and that's probably something we're going to see soon.
The number one reason I bought this 29 Trek Slash 9.8 is for enduro racing. My brother is really big into enduro racing. He also cross-country raced before that, so he has a lot of racing discipline. He's like, yo, you got to do some races this year with me. And so I was kind of hesitant initially at first. It's been awesome so far. I love how light the bike is. I love how fast it is. You just like point it and it goes. It charges through everything. And the other reason I bought the bike is I like to be in the air, and I like to be in the air a lot. And it definitely has the travel to eat up big air times and big hits. This bike is super versatile. It climbs super well. One of my favorite parts about the bike is the GX on it. I mean, put the dropper post up, you have it in trail mode, and you're going to get up any climb. But what it's really best at is going really fast, taking big hits, railing turns, smashing turns. It really is a race machine, and that's definitely what it does best at. But again, the versatility, being able to go to a bike park with it, being able to go to a cross-country trail and shred that, and being able to take it off of big, more free ride lines at the same time is really what I love about this bike. I did just put on the new G2s, and it's literally brought life back to this bike. You just get a lot more stopping power, and it's a lot more fun to ride when you can actually stop.
Right on. So which is the right bike for you? Honestly, nobody's going to be able to tell you that except you. Probably the best thing to do would be able to go and demo and ride the bikes and then decide for yourself. If you're like me, you're still going to have a hard time, and probably what you're going to end up doing is just every time they release a brand new one, you go get that one. You can look at all these bikes on our website, which is sledshedshop.com, and be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and go ahead and click on that bell notification thing so you get a little notification when we post up a new video. That way you'll be sure to stay up to date on the hottest new tech and the most rad bike stuff. Thanks again for stopping in, and hopefully we see you out on the trails or possibly out in the snow sometime soon. Woo!
Cool.
We videoing?
Yeah.
Okay.